Good to go, Jamie?
Let me hit record. We're on.
Very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to council, Monday, April 25th, 2022. Call the meeting to order at 4 p.m. As always, we just remind everybody to shut down or vibrate your mobile device. Any additions or deletions to the agenda today? We have
that one, your worship, under 14G. We'll have the AMO travel approval.
Okay, so that's noted. Anything else? Hearing none, I have a motion here that council hereby accepts the agenda for Monday, April 25th, 2022, regular meeting of council as circulated and amended. Moved by Councilor Ballas, seconded by Councilor Lake. All in favor? Thank you. Councilor Debuchy is on virtual, so if there's anything you need to make mention in regards to that votes or anything, just speak up, Councilor. Thank you.
I will, thank you.
Any disclosure of interest? Hearing none. I have a motion here that council hereby adopts the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on Monday, April the 11th, 2022, and the closed meeting of council held on Monday, April 11th, 2022, as circulated amended. Moved by.
So moved.
Councilor Sugi, Councilor. Thank you. Any questions, errors, omissions of those minutes? Hearing none, call a question. All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. This evening, we have a couple of awards to present to our firefighting community, and we'd like to invite down our chief, Earl Briggs. And I think we'll just go down the middle. Is that the best? Probably catch it on camera now, but. Earl. That's a nice set of wires. So this evening, we're recognizing Earl Briggs for long service medal, and Earl has a sincere appreciation for 25 years of courageous and dedicated service to the residents of Ontario, protecting their lives and property from the fire. On behalf of the town council and the Marathon residents, Earl, thank you very much for your service for the last 25 years.
Thanks, sir.
Time here in Marathon, I appreciate it. On behalf of Norm Hart, Earl is going to accept Norm's recognition as well. Norm's been a long-serving member of Marathon Fire Services, and Norm has put in over 25 years in Marathon as a volunteer firefighter. So I want to take the opportunity to thank Norm. I wish he was here, but thanks a lot, Norm, for all your hard work, and of course your family for letting you volunteer in our community. Sure. Appreciate it. Norm has had actually 26 years for Earl and 27 years for Norm in the services for fire in Ontario and in Marathon. So thanks again, both of you, for that long-standing service in our communities. Really appreciate it. Unfinished business update will be provided in regards to the tax rates. As you recall, we asked administration to go back and discuss with the owner and see if there's opportunities. So we'll get a highlight from that presentation. Mr. Skruczynski.
Yeah, so administration went back and met with Mr. Payne and Payne's Taxi. The council's recollection, we wanted to look at time of day pricing. We went back and met with Mr. Payne, and here are the comments from the meeting. The rates that were proposed by Payne's Taxi are what is required in order to stay in the business at the current time. Operating costs stay the same regardless of the time of day, so it makes no sense to charge less during the day. Most of the daytime customers aren't paying out of their own pocket, but do have funding that pays for their taxi service. Having two different rates will create more work for the company and may create confusion with some customers. They're asking that the proposal remains as is, as originally presented to council, which was the $12 rate for the seniors and the $15 regular rate for regular customers, regardless of the hour of day. And that, yes, that we bring this forward to council tonight. So administration supports the original proposal as we indicated. And as council, as part of our discussion that evening, council will recall that administration was asked to look at deregulation. We haven't had the opportunity to do that in detail yet, but we do have a number of municipalities that have deregulated the service. So we will be in a position to bring that report forward later on this year for council to review. So as per council's direction, Payne's Taxi is asking that the original proposal as presented is approved by council.
Great, thanks. And there is no motion for that, but the original motion was on the floor and we all agreed upon that. I think we accepted the rate increase, but we just want to have that conversation. So everybody's still good with that? Councilor Lake, Councilor Bowles, Councilor Suki, Councilor DeBussy?
Yes, I'm comfortable with that.
Thank you very much. And just one, Councilor Lake?
I think the one thing that the worship brought up that I think is worth feeding back to that company is don't wait so long till the
Right.
next rate increase, because the big issue is that big jump. If maybe just feeding back to the company that the more consistent, smaller rate is easier on council certainly and on people using the service. So.
Yeah, for sure. I just did an article with CBC out of Sudbury in regards to CAD services, and it's a struggle in a lot of municipalities to maintain the services because of the high cost of the fuel. As you know, it's $1.89 or $1.99. So we appreciate Mr. Payne and Payne's Taxi in regards to their efforts to continue to provide the service. We really should be discussing, I think Amy was going to discuss that a little bit more in August about the CAD services and regulating and deregulating. So that's something we really should be keen on and getting a full understanding of what that means. They support regulating because regulating allows you to make sure that cabs are safe and you're providing services in a safe manner. But that's something council, after administration looks into it in the fall, once the election's done, can discuss going forward. Okay, good. Thank you for that presentation. Up next, we have student council reports. Councilor Mischik, please.
All right, so to start here, this Thursday, there's going to be a grade 9 registration night at 7 p.m. Families and upcoming students are welcome to the high school. It's going to be a bit of an information session and just a quick tour of the high school. So the badminton season is just about over, so drop-in basketball has once again returned to the school. This usually happens on Sunday from 8 to 9, and students are required to have permission forms for that, so got to reach out and grab one of those. The soccer season has begun at Marathon High School. So last week there were a bunch of meetings about it, and permission forms and stuff were handed out. This week there's going to be tryouts for the boys soccer on Thursday at 6:30. And for the girls soccer, the practices have already started for that, so that's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I want to say, for those. Yeah, if any students have questions, they're able to reach out to Mr. Osborne or Ms. McDougall for those. The Student Council is happy to announce that our first dance will be happening on April 29th. So we're going to be doing a decades dance. So everyone's encouraged to dress up as a favorite decade and come up to that dance. It's free for all students at Marathon High School and the French side, so Nicole from there. The dance is going to be held from 8 to 11, so that'll be good. And then this week, students at the high school also received a report card, so those should be coming in the mail and coming soon.
It's great. Everybody should be excited about bringing those home with great marks. Lake, I know he does well with all the students.
I think you'd be more excited with the decades dance. 16, 7.
Thanks for that report. Councilor Kavanaugh, please.
Yeah, so on April 19th, 4 of the student trustee candidates gave speeches, including a local candidate, Justina Clary, who's a grade 10. And although she didn't end up getting the position of student trustee, she spoke very eloquently about student mental health and some initiatives that she wanted to take with that. The person who did end up getting the position is Jan Neiman from Gelton Composite High School. And the Falcons Running and Walking Club is going to be beginning on May 4th. It's going to be taking place on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 3 p.m. on the track. And for more information, students should be contacting Ms. Gillen. Thunder Bay's and Gallery Clothing is holding a contest for elementary and high school students to design original t-shirts to promote sustainability and environmentalism. Entries are due on May 22nd, and the winning design will be printed and sold by Gallery, and a part of the proceeds from all t-shirt sales will be donated to the winning artist school to support its sustainability project. So all you have to do to enter is send a photo of your design or drawing to t-shirtchallenge@fingallery.com. There's a post on Marathon High School's Facebook page with a link to more information about the contest. This Tuesday, badminton players from Marathon High School and April 2nd there will be going to Thunder Bay to compete in the Nuwasa tournament, which is going to be taking place on Wednesday. And the graduation ceremony is scheduled for Friday, June 24th at 1 p.m.
Okay, thanks for that report. Anybody have any questions? Good, sounds like lots of things going on at the high school and throughout the district, so thanks for the reports. Up next, we have a report on the 2022 operating capital budgets. Mr. Virgo, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So the draft 2022 operating and capital budget was presented at a special meeting of council on January 31st. Since that time, council's input as well as additional information and details have been incorporated into the budget. Overall objective of this year's budget is to maintain the current level of goods and services while keeping any increase to the tax levy to a minimum. Due to the pandemic, the province deferred reassessment until 2024. So the property values in this year are the current value assessment as of January 1st, 2016. There's no change from last year's property values other than supplemental omitted and reductions notices from impact that occurred last year. The overall assessment, excluding exempt properties, increased 1.31%. The increase to the residential rate was 0.36%. Commercial increased by $1.9 million. Most of the increase was due to the new OPP station. The industrial class decreased by 1.42% with the updated employee allocation on the Hemlo Mine property. The budget being presented today contains a bundle of programs and services that the council has agreed to be delivered to the residents of Marathon during 2022. Operating requirements are $4,895,000. In addition to the operating goods and services contained in the budget, $5,490,000 of capital work is contained in the budget. To pay for these things, $408,000 will have to be generated by taxation. The remaining costs will be funded through government grants, long-term financing, and reserves. Province has set the educational levy for various classes. The combined educational levy to be collected on behalf of the school board is estimated to be $435,000. The tax levy of $5,738,000 is an increase of 2.62% from last year. Residential class is an increase of 2.57, multi-res 2.2, commercial 1.0%, and the industrial class is an increase of 1.2%. All those numbers to summarize, the typical residential property is assessed at $89,000. They will see their taxes going up approximately $33 for the year. More details will be presented when we present the tax rates in subsequent months. So changes since the January 31st meeting are itemized as follows. Feel free to interrupt if you have any questions. So capital, the largest one is the works garage. So costs have increased from 6.7 million to 7.4 million. Those details were included in a report to council on March 28th. Most of the costs will be funded with long-term debt with a loan of approximately $6.9 million. Back in 2015, there were funds set aside to install monitoring wells at the new landfill at Camp 19 Road. Administration believes that this work is no longer required, so the $217,000 in the capital fund can be used to fund the design of the garage. The remaining $235,000 is included in tax levy. Tenders have been received on resurfacing Nicolette. The estimated cost has been reduced from $1.3 million to $1 million. Much of the savings have been offset by the works garage tax levy. The goal is to keep the max tax increase to 2%. So instead of reducing the levy by $300,000 and then reducing the tax levy and everyone paying less taxes, to get to the 2% tax increase, $235,000 is added back to the levy. This will reduce the amount of money that's required through the debt. The boat launch trail and bridge, $100,000 is not a reduction, but I've reclassified it from a capital cost to an operating cost. The trackless is $160,000. Back on the January 31st meeting, it was decided to fund this through the equipment capital reserve instead of the tax levy. Similarly, on March 28th, the grader for $500,000 was added, but it was to be funded from the same capital equipment reserve. Columbarium and splash pads both have been removed from the capital budget. Under administration, it's council travel will be increased $2,800. To provide health and dental benefits, $7,760 will be included. Under administration, higher interest rates generates more investment income. This will be approximately $8,000. So in February, the town was earning 0.55%, and last month we earned a whopping 0.8%. Unfortunately, Ballard rent at the mill site garage is only 3 months now, so that's a reduction of revenue of $76,000. We've arranged for the sale of 14 Peninsula and the sale of the fire pumper that will generate $116,000 in revenue. Administration reviewed training costs, and we managed to reduce those costs by $4,000. A carry forward from previous years, the province required us to generate a community safety plan. We're estimating $10,000 is added to the budget to cover those costs. The town share is only 2%, but we still have a little bit of work left to do on the liquefied natural gas project. That's only approximately $200. And I'll admit that I missed prior to the January 31st meeting to recognize writing off property tax revenues of approximately $9,400. This is town properties that we generate the money and then we write it off. Under protective services, we're grateful to acknowledge a donation from Barrett for the fire alarm program. That was $3,000 in additional revenue. Police Services Board has requested to increase the annual honorarium for 2 members from $300 to $1,500, so that would work to $2,400. Just a caution from the treasurer, a 500% increase may put pressure on upcoming union negotiations. In other organizations that the town supports, such as the library, museum, food bank, trail group, may ask for similar considerations to incentivize their volunteers. It was also agreed to increase travel to the Police Services Board of $3,500. We feel that we're comfortable of raising an additional $5,000 in zoning amendment revenue, but we also believe we'll require a consultant to do site development. This cost should be approximately $25,000. In Public Works, the new manager would like to transform record keeping from paper to electronic format. This requires computer hardware of $6,100. Getting ready for the new Public Works building will require a couple of work to be done. We figured that we no longer require to repair the fence damaged back in the winter time. That's a saving of $10,000. But is estimated $43,000 will be required for asbestos abatement when we demolish the existing buildings. We would like to move the cold storage building from the works yard to the waste transfer station. This is, it'll be done by internal labor. It's additional cost of $2,000, and it's really just an accounting exercise because labor to water is fully funded, so that won't be fully funded. And lastly, the cold storage building, when it's brought to the waste transfer station, will require a new $25,000 cement slab. There are staffing changes. All employees at the waste transfer station will be unionized. Previously, they were just based on a delta over minimum wage, and 1 more employee would be hired. These changes will increase labor costs by $67,000. This is in recognition of the internal promotion of the supervisor, Mr. Vilhelm who is replacing the former supervisor. Facility operators will be assuming janitorial supplies with the upcoming retirement. This will this will require an additional $11,000 as we will be having facility operators doing this full time. Some of the additional miscellaneous pressures on the budget will be on January 31st meeting. Those were not completely, we haven't received all the 2021 electricity bills. So we estimated that we have to increase it by $4,400. But we believe we can reduce the amount of road shoulder materials by 2,000. And we also are confident that improvements can be made to airport fuel revenues by $10,000 because in the prior 2 years, we were having problems with the fuel system, but that seems to work itself out. Under health and social, excuse me, the town will have to contribute approximately $30,000 for health funding Peninsula Manor because both partners will have to contribute since the manor isn't self-sustaining. The city of Thunder Bay has announced that they were asking for an additional $15,000 in the ambulance levy. Under recreation, we've discovered that the ammonia lines in the arena will require repairs. That's $47,000. Additional, the pool maintenance is also increasing by an additional $10,000. But at the January 31st meeting, it was decided there was no need for a $10,000 roof at the HVAC enclosure at the clubhouse. But we do require to upgrade to a commercial refrigerator. So a $6,500 refrigerator for the clubhouse is asked to be purchased. Administration is asking that we do not install benches at Green Space, saving $3,000. And we increased the library funding from $100,000 to $145,000, but this is the same as we provided in 2021. And at the January 31st meeting, it was agreed that museum funding would go from $5,000 to $15,000. We do have a project called the Gold Shore in the economic development that's funded 50% from NLHFC. We're hoping to defer this into 2023. So that's a reduction in the levy of $25,000. So your options are to approve the budget as presented or approve it with amendments. Administration recommends that budget be approved and that bylaw 2023 adopting the 2022 operating capital budget be approved as presented.
Thanks for that report. I do have a motion here. Council hereby accepts the attached report of information on 2022 operating capital budgets and further that the appropriate bylaw be adopted later in this meeting, approving the 2022 operating capital budgets. Moved by Councilor Brown, second by Councilor Lake. Questions?
I just have a question back to the Ballard garage that they were renting. Is there any like interest or future considerations for what's going on with that garage?
There has been questions. We're still working on it and it's available right now.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Potential there.
I mean, it's a good budget. We're obviously really close to what we said we wanted to do. The thing that always, I think, is tough in small towns is as the industrial base shrinks, more and more taxation goes on with residential folks. With the new buildings that are going on now, will we realize a realignment in those percentages? Like, will the new, hotel that's being built or any of that stuff, will that shift within this year, some of those percentages, so that
will be additional. Once Impact has given us the assessment, that will be classified as supplemental tax revenue, and that will either be decided to put it into reserves once the year is done, or we can decide to put that towards the works garage and reduce the amount of long-term debt.
Okay, because that's my sense is the more growth you see in your community, the less pressure goes on to the residents, right? Because that commercial class takes some of the pressure. So, I mean, I'm excited by that, and I mean, we're actually not increasing the budget very much year over year. It's just
Yeah.
more and more it seems to go to the residents, so.
Historically, we tend to not budget for surplus because most of it is very small.
Yeah.
Minor, adding a garage here or there, but there are a couple of big projects, but we still don't know what the scope is.
Okay.
And so it'd be, I wouldn't feel all about developing tax rates for something that's still not impossible.
So we can't use those numbers right now to talk about these. Okay.
Anything else?
Mayor, I have a question.
Yep.
Yeah, so. Okay, I'll try not to. Because there was no reassessment done on properties this year, is it expected that in the 2023 year it will be done?
Not until 2024.
Okay.
The province says that they still will have one more year of the 2016 assessment, and that will be for the 2023 tax year.
Okay, so from the perspective of the budget and the numbers we get from MPAC, we all know that the housing of price, house of prices, the price of houses have gone up substantially since 2016. So we will not be able to realize those assessment until 2004.
Right, but also a reminder that assessment doesn't generate more tax revenue. It just shares the share or splits up the tax levy.
So one comment on that, Councilor Debuchy, also, like right now, we're about 3% of $100,000 of assessment, correct, Mr. Verbo? So the homes assessed at $100,000, our tax ratio is 3%.
Yeah.
Right, give or take, make it easy, so understand mathematics. So if that same house in 2024, I believe Councilor Debuchy, goes to $300,000, the municipality will probably have to reflect on the change of that percentage of assessed value to be reflective of overall, because if it's gone from 100 to 300,000, it's still 3%. That homeowner could be having a $9,000 tax bill.
All right. If we decide to keep the tax rates at the current rate, what would happen most likely is we would reduce the tax rates because there's no need to have such a high tax rate if the values are triple.
Right.
Another caution though is residential, while it's 70% of our values, there's still 30% value that has a high risk of going down. They're talking about shopping malls cannot rent a lot of their station. So MPAC is warning that those assessments may go down.
Right, but what I guess I'm saying, so for clarity for the council and homeowners, that if comes 2024, the assessed levels are going up to $300,000 on average in our community, we will, or the council of the day will have to be reflective of what the percentage of tax ratios is going to be charged to the resident. We need $5.7 million this year. That's what we need to get. We don't need to get $8 million. It's nice to do that, but then that's not appropriate. So good for that, Councilor Debuchy?
Yes, but the other thing I was cautioning or was worried about is the fact that if we do assess those things and reduce our tax rate, I guess the ratios for residential, how will that affect our ratios based on that, I guess the last min or levels of fairness?
Those won't have any factors, and ratios are ratios. That's a whole different situation. Higher assessment will result in lower tax rates. So instead of 3%, we would only have to charge them at 2.5% or 2%.
Yes, I realize that. My question I'm trying to get at is if commercial and we stay within the class is a reduction, or there are some defaults on our commercial or retail sectors, that shift in the class will eventually have to go back onto residential.
One thing I would suggest that we put off this discussion until I bring the tax rate, because right now we're just talking about the 2022 budget.
Yeah.
A lot of these things on assessment won't come into effect until 2024.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah, so Councilor Ballas got a question, Councilor Debuchy.
Are all classifications assessed at the same, in the same year? So will we find out residential and commercial in the same year?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we all know because of COVID, the impact has been working closely with trying to get the reassessment from 16 to 20, and it didn't happen. So we were supposed to get a new number in 21 last year's budget, but COVID impacted obviously that. So we will see the reassessment in 2024.
And the whole thing, reassessment is phased in also, so if things go through the roof for residential, the
4-year phase,
four-year phase.
and or automatic reduction. The nice thing is if you do get a reduction, it's automatic. That doesn't happen very often. I got a couple of questions, Mr. Verbal. So you talked about the mine employee reduction of 1.42. So in regards to that, what's that number look like in regards to the employees that no longer work out of Marathon? Small amount.
There's 3 allocations. There's the town of Marathon, the township of Manitowoc, and other. And so they go in percentages, so the outer towns were increasing, that's slowed down now, but more employees in 2021 were working in Manitowoc compared to 2022.
Okay, so Ben, we had this discussion many times over the years. So employee Joe works in Thunder Bay, lives in Thunder Bay, works in Marathon, and Barry lives in Marathon in an apartment. Is he considered a Marathon resident for the tax purposes?
Eric assures us, yes, it's
Okay.
based on,
Where they're staying to work, because they work here, but they might be living in Thunder Bay or Kapuskasing, wherever, right?
correct.
Now, what about the individuals who are now at a camp in behind the old travelers? Is that considered a resident of Marathon as well?
Correct.
Okay, so long as we're getting the fair shake on that. You talked about the Gold Shore port reduction for 23, Mr. Skorchinski. The fact that we just signed off with the BN for the Port Authority going forward to look at in future developments of that, would not those dollars be adequate to help assist that, or are you gonna go for different funding models?
Yeah, so we're gonna look at a different, so these are specific to marketing dollars, and we can't amend those. So when we look at things like infrastructure work, we're already in discussions with NOHSC, and we'll go back to NOHSC and FedNer to fund those dollars.
Great. And just for everybody, obviously, you know that we signed last week, and it's for the public information that we signed with BN in regards to the Port Authority and going forward with that. So that's good. It's great news for the communities, both, and future economic opportunities for that property. Also, the Police Services Board, Mr. Verba, you made mention of that. There's a problem, and Mr. Lake identified as well in regards to the tax services. Board should come to the council more often for increases. Council has set a rate increase in 1994, never ever talked about council's increase since 1994. I sat on the Police Service Board now for the last 16 years, and this has never been adjusted. So I know it seems like a huge increase, but the reality is the board agreed to have an increase set out because they're trying to attract professionals, young professionals, to sit on boards, and our board is going to change from a 3, it's supposed to be a 3-member, we couldn't fill the other position yet, from the provincial appointments. It's going to go to a 5-member board once the community safety plan has been finalized and the province initiates the final the change in the act. So we will now become a regional board. We're at Marathon, Manitowoc, and Pick River.
So we will pay,
That we don't know that answer.
not in 2022.
No. This is just for now until that's all approved from the province. So that increase is substantial, as you stated, 500%. But the reality is it's because the board has never adjusted that in some 20+ years, maybe more, since the board was initiated back in the 90s. So that has to be always reflective of how you do look at those things in regards to that. I think that was it for myself. Anybody else? Councilor Lake?
Yeah, what I like about the budget is it's forward-looking. We're actually addressing some of those infrastructure needs we actually have been putting off, especially the works garage and a couple of big purchases. But the question you always get when you're at the grocery store is, how much my taxes going up? And so the answer on this
2%.
budget would be 2% in residential. The average is 2.7.
No, the average is 0.036 actually.
$33.
30, so just tell somebody $33.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like anything, there's gonna be a couple of losers in the process, the way the assessed value went out, current market value. So that will be reflective. If they have any issues, they can contact the treasurer and he will forward them on to MPAC.
But you know what, and I think that there's enough in this budget that helps the whole community that certainly it's easier to say, you know, yes, your taxes went up, but look at the suite that's coming your way.
Sure. One other thing I know it's been discussed in the budget, and then we talked about the Pebble Beach enhancement. That's been kind of be looked at and see what the workload is going to be available for our staff to focus on getting that up and running this year as part of the start for that.
Yeah, so right now we're finalizing the detailed engineering, design and architecture. Once we have that, we'll go up to tender. Obviously, we're hopeful, as we saw with Nicolette, that the tenders have come in, there's, companies are looking for work.
Good.
Once we have that, we'll be able to finalize the plan and bring that forward to council and determine what we can accomplish this year and what we'll have to push forward to 2023.
Great. Also, in regards to the $100,000 grant that we received for the Pebble Beach area, the committee set out a list of activities like to see down there and the priorities. And one big priority, I think, that was going to be accessibility for future walking and movement down the bridge on the actual site. Will that happen this?
Yeah, so that's so there's an update on that. So Mr. Paris and I discussed that last week. So we're going to be improving the overall accessibility around the fish cleaning station and the bathroom area, bringing that up to grade, making that fully accessible. We're in the process of applying for the necessary permits to take out the old steel structure where you launch your boat, to put in a concrete structure to make that more accessible. And as per the previous budget discussion, we contracted a group of 7 to do the installation over Duncan Creek. They started that planning work and that will take place in 2022.
Great. So Duncan Creek is the creek that splits the Cummings Beach access to the future walking towards Carter Cove.
It's not Shack Creek.
Duncan Creek.
But it comes over the golf course.
It comes out of Shack Creek.
And supposedly there's beautiful rainbow running right now, so haven't been down there. Okay, all that being said, Councilor DeBouche, you're good?
Yes,
Thank you very much. So with the mover and seconders permission, I'll call the question. All in favor of the 2022 budget? Capital and operating. Thank you very much, Jim.
yes.
Verbal. Okay, I've got a couple motions here. One in regards to the following check runs will be presented for council approval in the amount of accounts payable $1,162,079.86 and payroll in the amount of $245,114.72. Moved by Councilor Bell, second by Councilor Lake. Any questions of that? Accounts payable and payroll. Hearing none, call the question. All in favor?
Yes,
Great. Up next, we have the bylaw. Sorry, a couple of reports before we get into the bylaws. A report on the Police Services Board from myself. We held our Police Service Board last week and we talked about the impact of Marathon. Marathon's numbers are really good in the last quarter. The first quarter of 2022, they've been very status quo or lower. A bit of issue that we now have a crime prevention officer in place where we're looking at the drug infiltration in the community. We're talking about the drugs that are hard and, the meth and that stuff where we want to continue to focus on that. That will be focused on in our community and trying to put that really to bed because it does have huge impacts, not only on the addiction portion, but also then on future crime to get monies to buy those drugs. So there's a wide range of activities that happen around that. So they're fully aware of that. All the other numbers are really good. They're status quo or lower in regards to the community itself, so that's good, and it was really a good quarter for the community overall. We then discussed around the board's honorarium, and because of that length of time, it was discussed around trying to attract young professionals to come and take time off work and attend meetings and do the homework. And as we said, as I stated, they're looking through the community safety plan, and that will address the change in the board structure. And once the province finalizes all that, there will be a combination of a Marathon, BN, and Manitowoc as a board structure for police services. There was a bit of discussion around whether or not the mayor had a conflict in the police services board. I have never had that discussion. Our member, Pinky McCrae, had discussions around that at the previous meeting, and it was noted that there might be a conflict directly from a mayor having direction for police services. I didn't see it, and there's never been any discussion from the Solicitor General's office around that. So I'll investigate a bit more when I'm down at the AGM this spring in Toronto to find out if there's anything about that. But the Solicitor General would have made it very clear really quickly that a mayor or member of council wouldn't be the chair of the police services boards within municipality. So we can do a little bit more homework on that. And then, of course, there was the travel to the AGM going down to Toronto in May, the end of May 26th and 7th. And that'll be our first session for the last 2 years due to COVID. So it'll be interesting again and have discussions around the impact of policing, community safety plans, where that's it. But then we're into election in June. So there's probably a rip, there's not much happening anyway. And then Mr. Skroczynski was present and he discussed about the potential discussion around the ATV use in our community again. We had that discussion in the past. We had a big meeting at the library, at the theater, if you recall. And at that time, Detachment Commander Whaley, Chris Whaley, presented to the community the use of ATVs. And there is a lot of restrictions with the use of ATVs in our community. People should be aware of that. And so we're going to try to bring that through an educational format to the community over the next little while. So just so people are aware that they're not free running around the community at all. There's some really strict guidelines within the use of ATVs and within the municipality. I think that was it. Darryl, do you want to highlight anything about
And I think the other important thing is a lot of people don't realize the insurance requirements. For those that are underage and don't have a G license, that ultimately fall on the parents. So we're planning, I spoke with our bylaw officer, and we'll do a joint session with the OPP and invite the public in the coming weeks.
Good. Any questions? Councilor?
Maybe just one. So, like when I look into the future, there's hopefully going to be another camp in Marathon. The police services board didn't see any increase in, so it was it's nice to see, right? Like there's always a fear when there's a work camp that maybe you're going to see some stats bump up, but I mean, it always felt like you hardly even noticed. So
Yeah, no, absolutely good question. And the actual, there was 2 or 3 incidents over the 2 years plus with over 300 employees coming and going to our community. So that's very, very low impact, if any, to the community. And I think that hats off to Ballard and their employees. And they did a great job and they had good leadership in regards to that. But they also had very strong restrictions within the camp itself. There was a curfew at 9 o'clock and no alcohol on the camp. They can go out and have a beer in the community and have dinner and enjoy and go to wing night. A lot of them did. But 9 o'clock, they'd all left and went home and back to the camp and went to bed. Because their policy was clear that you couldn't be having alcohol or anything after 10 o'clock or you weren't fit for duty the next day. So that was a very good policy. And I think that's what Generation has to look at when they decide if things go well through the environmental assessment, their development and building of their mindset with construction camp.
good to see.
Good. Thanks. Okay, up next we have Councillor Vance to provide a verbal update in Chamber of Commerce.
All right, awesome. So the Marathon and District Chamber of Commerce has collaborated with Science North and the town of Marathon to offer a Great Northern Ontario Roadshow this Friday, April 29th from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Marathon Recreation Complex. The objective of this event encourages a resurgence in homegrown tourism and to highlight what's available locally by showcasing the blend of art and culture, recreational tourism, and local businesses. So again, that's this Friday, April 29th from 2 to 7 p.m. at the Marathon Recreation Complex.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Brad. Any questions of Councillor Vance? Hearing none, Councillor Lake will give us an update on Thunder Bay District Social Services Board.
Thanks, Your Worship. We had our my last budget process through DSAT, so that was interesting to go through. And I think the eye of lots of the small municipalities was keeping the levy down for our municipalities. So I think we did that again this year. We were audited, and I sat on the audit committee this year, and that also went very well. So it was interesting to go through that process. The one thing that I think the 2 things that came out of that meeting that I was very aware of is one, the small municipalities made it very clear in the last meeting that if there is, for example, a fire or a housing project that is dismantled and no longer used, that the monies accrued from that need to go back into that municipality. That sending money back into the general coffers really endangers small communities because we don't have the need that the city has. So we asked, significant in particular, and I've asked for that to be part of the policy of DSAP, and I think we maybe got some traction there. I think we had that experience back when the fire was here and that money just went back. So I think that was a good fight to have, and certainly Councillor Kibushi will agree that you're supposed to wear the hat of the DSAP, but I think you got to fight for the small community. The other thing was the final uptake of the social services funding around the pandemic is up. So I think there's an opportunity. I know Marjorie House has applied for funding in the collective, but maybe just trying to make that aware to our partners in the community that there will be one last intake for that funding.
Great, thanks. Any questions, Councillor Lake? Okay, hearing none, I've got to move on to the rest of the agenda. I got a motion here that the bylaw number 2022 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 216 being a bylaw to authorize the establishment of fees and charges for the town of Marathon for the year ending December 31st, 2022 be read a first, second, and third time and finally passes 25th day of April 2022. Moved by Councilor Balance. By Councilor DeBucci. Any questions of that bylaw? Favor?
Yes.
Thank you. Bylaw number 2023 being a bylaw to adopt the estimates and sums required during the year 2023 be read a first, second, and third time and finally passes 25th day of April 2022. Moved by Councilor Lake, second by Councilor Balance. Any questions on that bylaw? Hearing none, call in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. Excuse me. Information received from TransCanada Trail regarding the routing of Trail 0368 Voyager Trail Group of 7 come to all members, and the question is they want to order of routing information along be part of the TransCanada Trail and will be removed. This is this is the motion, so I need to move our second to put on the floor. Councilor Lake, second by Councilor Valens. Questions? Councilor Lake.
There wasn't a map attached, but I think the administration kind of knows what they're doing. I don't actually understand why this is coming to council, but.
Yeah, so this is it's a requirement that because we're going to be utilizing municipal property, and in this case, it's a rerouting, it's not removing the trail. But what we're doing is because we're going ahead with the developments at Pebble Beach as well as in the boat launch area, as well as creating that Duncan Creek accessibility access, our official route is now going to be on the waterfront as opposed to it going through the town when it shows up on the TransCanada Trail mapping system. They need a resolution from the municipality stating that we support this rerouting. It's pretty straightforward. It works well for us. It'll tie our projects into the TransCanada Trail.
Anything else? Call the question, all in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. Up next, I have a motion here, a resolution in regards to council hereby supports the attached resolution from the city of Peterborough, from Peterborough County pertaining to floating accommodations, and further that a copy of this motion be forwarded on to individuals listed on the originating resolution. Moved by Councilor Lake, second by Councilor Valens. Any questions of that? Councilor Lake.
It certainly doesn't seem like it's an issue for us because we don't have any floating accommodations, but when I lived in Yellowknife, I remember there were houseboats where people were living and it was a big deal because they didn't pay tax. Is that true? Could I take a houseboat and put it in the harbor and live tax free, or put it on Penn Lake? Like as a municipality, what's our?
Yeah, I guess there's two concerns, municipally that administratively we would have. One is there isn't the current tax regime in Ontario doesn't recognize these types of floating accommodations. And I think the second, possibly more problematic, is there's no system in place to deal with sewage and waste on these facilities, which could obviously be a major concern from a pollutant perspective. So really what they're saying is that these are becoming more popular. And I think as, maybe not so in Marathon, but there's less and less winter happening in warmer climates, and these are becoming more problematic. So, really what the county is saying, and we would support it administratively, is there's got to be a process to look at these things, as these gain more popularity going forward.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. I mean, Lake Superior is our big lake, but you could easily put one on a cove somewhere and have your home built on the water, and there is no tax system in place. Yeah. All in favor?
Yes.
Up next, we have a resolution supporting that's been received from the town of Bracebridge pertaining to requests for AMO to review the challenges to development in relation to the Ontario Land Tribunal. For the copy of this motion be forwarded on to the individual listed on the originating resolution. Moved by Councilor Lake, second by Councilor Balance. Questions? Comments? This one here is pretty straightforward in regards to the mandate of the tribunal, and that they override a lot of the things that we want to do as municipalities. And it's just another layer of red tape, basically.
Yeah, I don't think we've never
No,
had any
no,
interaction?
because of developmental aspects, right? It's mostly where you could, like in Bracebridge area, Cottage Country, you know, a lot of Huntsville, like those areas. Yeah, but it could affect us eventually down the road, if people start moving this way.
Yeah, the real challenge with the land tribunal and the way it's set up, and it's fairly new to Ontario, is that the tribunal, which isn't municipal, can override a municipal council decision. So that's where the loggerheads are really starting to happen. As the mayor indicated, not so much around here, you know, based on our density and geographically how our communities are structured. But when you start to see, you know, land sprawl and urban sprawl in the GTA, you're starting to see, you know, a lot more of these things happening where developers are trying to push projects through, municipalities are pushing back, saying there hasn't been enough study work done, and now it's going to the land tribunal.
Any other questions?
Yeah, how is the OLC created? Is it lawyers that are sitting on it? Is it, you know, members of the public? Is it something, like, there's no accountability elected?
They're not elected, but it is a governmental
It's
approval
appointment,
process
yes,
that the municipality has theoretically has no control over.
I can imagine what would happen if we made a decision.
Well, individual, you made a decision against an individual, they have the right to go to the OLT and dispute that. No different than it was with the Ontario Municipal Board, same thing, right?
Yeah, so it's like the ombudsman for development.
Yeah, but what their outcome is that they can overrule the
Whatever
municipal's
they say.
decision based on something that was presented to them. So, all in favor? Carried, thank you. County, the council hereby supports the attached resolution received from the municipality of Grey Highlands pertaining to the HST rebate on new homes. And Ontario further that copy of this motion be forwarded on to individual listed on the originating resolution. Moved by Councillor Brown, second by Councillor Lake. Any questions on that one? Councillor Lake?
Looking for clarification. So if I read this right, if your house is less than $450,000, you have to pay HST. If it's over 450, you don't. That's the Ontario rule right now.
Yeah, so for new build too as well, right? So,
So it's for new build. So I mean, that doesn't really impact us in the sense that,
well, but they could, because we have people who might potentially want to build in our lots, and if we look at subdivision developments and all that, and they're new builds, so there will be impacts of an extra tax levied against the home, right?
right now, maybe I misread it. Right now, there would not be a tax against that.
So it's not a tax, so what you get is a rebate.
Yeah.
So if you so right now, if you build a new home, and they've established it, you know, fair market value of $450,000 or under, you get a rebate on the HST portion of taxes paid. What the resolution is saying is that housing prices no longer, fair market value in most municipalities, and you know, if we're starting to get there, $450,000 is no longer applicable. So what they're saying to encourage new development and more housing is to increase that threshold to say 650,000 as an example. So you get the rebate if you move from 450 to the 650.
So it's just looking to increase that number.
Correct.
So that-
It's a federal government rebate.
I totally misread that one.
All good? All carried, thank you. We have the resolution from municipality of Hastings Highland pertaining to the funding support for infrastructure, and this motion be forwarded on to individual listed on the original resolution. Moved by Councillor Valens, second by Councillor Lake. Any questions on that one? Nothing? Okay. All in favor? Carried, yeah. Thank you.
If give us more funding, that'd be great.
So this motion here in regard to the council hereby supports the attached motion received from the Marathon Police Services Board regarding to increasing the board's annual honorarium. And further, the council remuneration policy be amended to a later meeting reflecting the change in the honorarium for council's representation on the board. And the reason why it's brought back to council because you have council reps on the board. So the honorarium is across the board for the members of the police services, but there's also reflection in the honorarium for council member who sits on that board. Moved by Councillor Lake, second your balance. Any questions?
I just have a question.
Councillor
So
Stephen?
like, what's you mentioned the AGM, what other, like, commitments are there being on that board?
So the board has a zone, we're in zone 1, and then zone meetings, which would be the marathon, basically cut out Manitowoc all the way to the Manitoba border. And you have an annual meeting with the zone. AGM meeting, typically London, Toronto, that area. That could be anywhere Southern Ontario. And then, of course, 4 meetings a year as a board member.
And those are with the detachment commander.
Yes.
It's a good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually really good.
And then again, it's about attracting young professionals to it, so that if they're taking time off work and they're not getting compensated, so the $300 was reasonable, but at the same time, if you go to the AGM, that's 2 days, 3 days with travel, that's 3 days expected to take time off at your expense. So and I've been pushing for years, not just with this board, but any board, to reflect that. You don't want just people who are retired on board, you want people who live in the community and who interact within the community.
Are they part of what, like, I know they used to do, they don't, they do it anymore in high school, like when the police services would go in and do presentations and whatnot, is this board sort of responsible for that?
Yeah, totally. The police services board gives direction, and we just had a good discussion around that too, because with the OPP, it really is the guiding agency, so it really assess the rules for OPP, but the municipality through the police services board guide the policing within the community. So we want specific foot patrol, bike patrol, reduction in this, and increase in that. That board gives direction for the officers through the detachment commander to have more up tick here, down tick there, whatever, right? So there's a lot of direct comments through the detached commander and about policing in the community. But it's still driven by Aurelia in the big picture. Anything else? All good? All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. And I have a motion here that we will be attending AMO this year, that the mover second that the following individuals be approved for the attendance at AMO conference scheduled for August 14 through 17, 2022 in Ottawa. And for that, of course, their expense be paid according to the town's policy. Moved by Councillor Lake, second by Councillor Suki. Now, this is something that we will set up, obviously, going after the election, which is in June. There'll be a new government, whether it's PC, majority, minority, whatever, is to set out some of our priorities, and we'll, again, as always, we go down either in Roma in the wintertime in January, February, or AMO in the summertime in August to do delegation with ministers to our argument forward in regards to funding. We still got a couple key things on the agenda. Obviously now with the Port Authority, that's a good opportunity for us to meet the Gold Shore Developments, which is developing the actual marketing of that whole area. And of course, our active living center still is a big item that we want to kind of work out some type of systems or formula or funding opportunities with the government of Ontario. So,
Mayor?
Yes, Councillor Debuchy.
Yes, I would like to bring forward a recommendation that we send at least one of our representatives be the new Councillor Suki, if he's able. That would be a great information session for him to attend.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you for that. But I'll ask Councillor Suki if he's interested in attending. I'll put his name down here if he is. And you can always contact the deputy clerk and let her know that you were in or out if you're not interested. August, you'll look at the dates, you can figure it out. But I'll put your name here. Okay. No, balance?
Want to, but I'm not allowed.
Okay. Debuchy?
I'll defer if other councillors want to attend.
So I'm gonna put your name. Only, we got some Suki and Debuchy right now and Balance and
It's
Lake.
appropriate to put his name in case council.
Right, so, and then there'll be Dumas and Skorchinski as your mayor and CAO, okay? Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, anything else before we adjourn? There's a circus tomorrow in town. Hope everybody gets to go visit. There's 2 shows tomorrow, so I encourage anybody who hasn't got tickets, pick up a ticket and go enjoy the actual circus, get your family out and have some fun in the community, and hopefully spring will arrive soon. We said we'll adjourn at the hour of 4:58 p.m. Thank you and have a good night. Councillor Lake, second by Councillor Balance. Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night.
Enjoy your weather out there, Kelly.